Far we've gone through our project and we've seen how we can make a fetch request from the database using our use state. But now, guys, what if we need to use this same logic in other components? We are still going to write all this code in another component, which is really going to be time consuming and making our work as software developers boring. So what we want to do in this project is to make a custom hook. A custom hook just like this hook here, the use effect hook, the use state hook. So we want to make our own custom hook that will do this fetching for us, and we'll just have our data inside here. So let's see how we can go about that. We'll come to our source. Here we make a new file. We call it use fetch.js. Usefetch.js. So we are going to create a function inside this use fetch that will be able to do that logic for us, and then we'll just copy and paste the code that we have. So we'll create a constant here, we'll call it use fetch, just like the same name that we name our file here. Use fetch, we'll give it the same name here. So this is going to have an arrow function, and we'll return something. Okay, great. Now, after doing everything, we have to export default so we can use it in other places. Use fetch. Good. So now we are going to move our logic from here and transfer it into this our hook, this custom hook, because we want to make it reusable so that we can use it in other components. So I will come here and copy. In fact, I will cut out everything and put it inside my function here. Okay, now we are getting an error because this is not defined here. So we have to import this use state from React. We have to import use state, use effect, sorry, from React, and then look at all of this set. All these variables are not, because we were getting them from this local state. So what I'm going to do is I'll move all of them still. I move everything and I bring it inside here so that we will not have those error messages. And that is fine. Now use state, we need to import use state also from React. That looks good. Yeah. Okay, but since we are going to be using these things for so many other um, components, I think it's wise for us to remove these blocks and use something like data. So everywhere I have blocks, I'm going to replace it with data. Okay. This has to be in caps. Set data. This is also set data, and I think that's it. Yep. So yes, that's what we can do. And then just like the same way when we do use other when we use other hooks, we get to retain some values when we use other hooks. Like this hook, it's returning us with this value. Okay, now we can return our own value here, which will be an object or an array. But I like to return an object which we can use here. See, these ones are already showing errors, so we have to return all these ones that we can make use of them here. let's take off these guys here because we are not using them again. And now what we have to export this set error, set data, set loading. We have to export all of them so that we can make use of them here. Okay, so let's see. We'll start with so the order does not really matter, the order that you export them. So we can do data is loading and error. So we can do data, comma, is it is loading that we have here? Yes, loading. Okay, and then the other state that we have to export here is error. Okay, perfect. So this is what we are import. These are the states that we'll use when we try to use this our use fetch hook that we have just created. But one more thing, if we are reusing this thing, this our hook, we would not like to use this same endpoints for everything. So we would like to use some kind of variable here, maybe URL, we call it URL, and then we come here, we pass that same URL because we can make use of it later in the future. And by this, we pass in here and we have it here so that we can make use of it. Okay, that's it. So let's see how we can use it now in our application inside our home. So just like the others, we can destructure it like this const. Okay, we are getting all of this from use fetch. Getting all of that from use fetch. What are we getting? We are getting the data. We're getting data. We are getting loading, and we are also getting our error. So we can pass our endpoint now here as a parameter. So these are the things that we are getting. But now this block, we don't have any block. So we can go and change, we can just put something like this block here so that we are getting data from our use fetch, but we are using blocks locally. So guys, I hope this makes sense to you now. We have just copied. Let's test this first and be sure that everything is working as expected. Um, let's refresh this. Oops, we are getting some errors. Let's see how to fix them. Where is the error coming from? Um, let's see this. Where is the error coming from? Just check this now. All right, guys, I think we have to destructure this not like so, but like so. Okay. This is our data. Yeah, Let's try this one more time. Okay. So everything is working correctly. So now let's see what we've just done. Now we've removed all our functionality that was here, and we created a new file called use fetch because we want to make our own custom hook. We created a function and then we export the function as default. Now, this function has a return value which returns to us all these variables that we are making use of them inside our use effect. This use effect function is the same function that we had before, but we just transfer it here with all our states. But now we are returning, this function is returning these values. So when we come now to our home, we want to make use of it. We just destructure the values from use fetch, and then we pass on this our API. So this our API is received as a parameter here, and it gets here, and then we make the fetch. Whatever it returns to us, we'll get the values here and we'll send back to this our home here, so we can make use of the values here in this our JSX here, and everything works out perfectly.